Welcome back to the program. The USA won 6-1 against the Finns in their Four Nations face-off opener on Thursday night. Brady Tkachuk and Zach Werenski each recorded 3 points. Most points in an international tournament game for an American. Brady and Matthew's dad, Keith Tkachuk, with 5. For a breakdown of this American victory, here is Martin Biron joining us from America. Marty, the Americans open their tournament with a victory, but I thought it was interesting because you look at the final score, you might think this is a blowout, but the first 2 periods, the Finns almost seemed to be playing their game, and it was a lot closer than maybe the final score would indicate. Any concern on your part for the Americans after what seems like a big victory for them?
It's hard to have any concerns when you win 6-1, but I'll say this. I was concerned in the first 40 minutes because we did not see any speed, any quickness on transition, any rush attack by the Americans. All we saw was that the Finns were controlling the middle of the ice, and it was a chip and chase. And it was, let's get physical. Great. The Americans were physical. That was fun. They were good on the forecheck. That was great. But is that going to win you this tournament? And it wasn't until Mike Sullivan and the coaching staff of Team USA decided to put Matthew and Brady Tkachuk together that we saw some energy. That line with Eichel energized Team USA, and then in the third period, they got a lucky bounce on the power play goal early in the third, and then they opened it up. And I get it. Finland was going to try to come back in the game and have to maybe play a little bit desperate, and it opened the door for Team USA. But for the first 40 minutes, I'm thinking, where's the skill set? We know they have a great group of forward, but where's the skill set? Where's the wow in this game? There wasn't any wow, so I was a little concerned in the first 40, but in the third period, they played really well.
I want to go back to Canada's win over Sweden on Wednesday, Marty, and something that head coach John Cooper said after the game that I thought was really interesting, and this is getting a lot of attention. Take a listen.
It's no coincidence, his record of when he's wearing a Canadian jersey. It's not fluke. And he will go down as the greatest player to ever represent his country. If not, he's going to be on the Mount Rushmore for sure of people that have thrown the Canadian jersey on.
Of course, that was John Cooper talking about Sidney Crosby after Crosby's incredible performance in that 4-3 win Wednesday night over Sweden. Marty, a lot of great Canadians have played for Team Canada. Gretzky, Orr, Lemieux, John Tonelli. My question is Sid the greatest of them all?
Yeah, I think he is, in my opinion. And the reason is this is his 9th time wearing the Canadian jersey, right? If you take the under-18, the 2 World Juniors, the 2 Olympic Games, the World Cup, now the Four Nations face-off, but most importantly, the 2 World Championships. And a lot of players always say no to go into the World Championships. They don't want to go in. It's not like Sidney Crosby had a lot of opportunities to go to the World Championship. But in 2015, after they lost in the first round, he went all the way to Europe to represent Team Canada in the World Championship. And at that moment, you understand what it means to Sidney Crosby to wear the Canadian leaf on the jersey and to represent his country. And you think of the golden goal against Team USA in Vancouver, and you think of the World Juniors and how dominant that team was during the NHL lockout. And now what he's done in that first game at the Four Nations tournament, I look at it and I say, why not think of Sidney Crosby as not just the most dominating at the international level for Team Canada, but one that's always been willing to do it. And for me, he's number 1.
I thought about you as I was watching that Canada-Sweden game because when I asked you who you would pick as Team Canada's starting goalie, you went with Adin Hill. John Cooper goes with Jordan Binnington, and it looked a bit shaky at times in regulation, but boy, was he great in OT. So what did you think? Overall, are you happy with Cooper's decision?
Well, overall, I think that when John Cooper and Team Canada picked Jordan Binnington, it's because he's a gamer, and at any moment he can make that big save that will win you the game. Now, the goal on Kempe and even the first goal of the game that he gave up, they weren't great goals, but in the 3-3 game, can you make that one save? And in overtime, Jordan Binnington was just spectacular, especially the save on Mika Zibanejad. So when I think of Jordan Binnington, there was 2 different goaltenders in that game. There was the one for the first 2.5 periods, and then the one from the last half, the third, and overtime. Which one are we going to see it more consistently in the rest of the tournament? So that's the question, right? That's always the risk when you have those type of short tournaments. It didn't look good for a little bit, and then he came together. I am really looking forward to the matchup Saturday night. If Binnington and Hellebuyck go head-to-head, this is going to be a giant matchup of goaltenders, and obviously the best one should win the game. And Binnington has to outplay Hellebuyck, and he has to outplay, against the Finn, if it's Saros or Lenkin or whatever, he has to be the better goalie. He wasn't in game 1, but he has to do that now in game 2 and 3 and into the final if they get there.
Okay, let's continue to talk about that game Saturday night against the Americans. Now that we've had a chance, Marty, to see Team USA and see Team Canada in person and see what they have, has that changed your mind at all about how these two teams match up, and who are you picking to win on Saturday?
So I'm going to give Canada a slight edge. And I think what I saw out of Team Canada, the skill, the speed, the transition, obviously the power play, the depth up front, I think when you match them up against Team USA and the way USA played, especially in the first 40 minutes, I'm saying Team Canada could definitely be the better team on the ice. On paper, it probably still goes a little bit to Team USA, and then that obviously goes to Team USA. But the other aspect of the game, and now we saw how supportive the crowd in Montreal was against Team Sweden. We saw fans, Montreal Canadian fans, cheering Brad Marchand after he scored a goal, cheering Mitch Marner after he scored a goal. These guys usually get booed, right? The same way that Austin Matthews and all of these guys with Team USA will get booed on Saturday night. So maybe the fact that it is in Montreal, the home ice advantage, the support from the fans is going to put Canada over the top. So I'm going to give a slight edge to Team Canada after watching the first couple of games.
Marty, thanks for this. Really appreciate having you on. This is awesome. And yes, don't forget, FanDuel has the Canadians as a slight -111 favorite over the USA on Saturday night. Americans, though, leading the tournament now after winning against the Finns in regulation. They pick up 3 points. Canada, with their win in overtime, picks up only 2. It's going to be a very entertaining contest.